Rita, and let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. Rita Kakati-Shah. Kakati-Shah.
Yeah, well done.
That's good?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. How you doing, Rita?
Doing really well. How are you, Dominic?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. Guys, we met, what, 5 minutes ago?
If that.
She had meetings going back to back. And anyway, so it's all good. And thank you to Rashna for nominating you for Person Behind the Passion. Rashna, the bee queen, the queen bee.
Yeah, and you know what? It's actually Rashna's birthday today. I found it from Facebook. So happy birthday, Rashna, in case you're...
Yay, happy birthday.
Yay.
We'll light some candles for her. That's awesome. So anyway, thank you for accepting the nomination. It's truly a pleasure for me to be here talking to you. Let me tell you, the people who are listening, I know that your friends are probably going to watch this, later, or they'll listen to it on the podcast that I put together. But so the Self-Achievement Network we're a Facebook group, we're a networking group, okay? And it was born out of adversity. I had a back injury and I was traveling all over, but I had to condense everything down. So a couple of years ago, I put everything online. And so now it's like it's a main group, and then there's a lot of little subgroups, and the subgroups are for people that have specific interests, and they can go in those groups and they can do lives and they can do whatever they want to post and like that, and then share the links in the main group. We pretty much reserve the main group's coveted space for doing things like this. So I always tell people the purpose for the Self-Achievement Network is for all of us to improve our world, right? And I created the Self-Achievement Network because I wanted to give people opportunity. So I say opportunity to either discover their passion, share their passion, or to evolve their passion. So this is what Rita is going to do, nominated by Rashna, birthday girl Rashna, to share her passion about building confidence, inspiring success, and leadership in women. And we're going to expand on that. And so welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And yeah, so tell us, Rita, you're in New York right now, right?
Yes.
The city, and you have this funny sounding voice, and you don't sound like you're from the United States.
No, I'm from the UK, born and bred Londoner. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'll be in New York 10 years in April of next year. So.
Oh, wow. Well, welcome to America.
Thank you.
And I don't know what you do. I know that your passion is about empowering women in many ways. So what do you do? And tell us about your passion. How'd you get into it?
Yeah, so it's actually as with a lot of things that you develop your passion because of a reaction to something that's happened in your life. So for me, very much it was that case. It was like my life journey. So I just talk a little bit through that. So born and bred in London, like I said, I started my career in banking. I was at Goldman Sachs for about 10 years or so. And I was involved with just diversity and inclusion initiatives during my time at the firm. Just by virtue of being a woman and, of Indian origin. So it was just something I got into naturally. About almost a decade later, I was approached by a family friend of mine who wanted to anything I'd ever done before, but I had a business background, and that's why I was approached. They said, well, can you help me set something up in clinical trials in Delaware? So my first question is, what's Delaware? I'd never heard of it, living in the UK.
Yeah, right.
Like, is this a box of chocolates? What kind of product? What is this? I had no idea. It's, a place that you can set companies up, and it has really, really healthy tax restraints there. So that's, long story short, how I got my feet wet in a completely different industry, Dominic. And I absolutely loved it. I was in business development, so I got to travel. I always loved traveling ever since I was young, and it was great. Part of ththose travels actually brought me to the US, where I was frequently visiting anyway. And then after I got married, I moved here to New York, and it's coming up to 10 years in April of 21.
Wow.
And I have two small children now. They're 5 and 7. And I took around 3.5, almost 4 years off to raise them. And I've got to tell you, Dominic, out of all of the jobs I've ever done, by far, whether it's banking and working almost 24/7 sometimes, whether it's traveling and crossing time zones, in the pharmaceutical industry, nothing trumps motherhood. Being a full-time parent is like, wow, it's working 24/7, but you can never take a sick day. You are constantly sleep deprived and you're always on your A game. There's just nothing about that. So that's really what I thought. And, and I noticed that I was developing all sorts of skills that were transferable in the professional workforce as well. For example, I thought I was patient. No, not until I had kids did I realize what patience actually was.
Yeah. Oh, that's
There's
funny.
just things like that. And
It's the same thing with guys, with the
Right.
same thing with parenthood. I'm like, I thought I was a patient guy, and all of a sudden my hair's falling out,
yeah, yeah.
smoke's coming out of my ears, and I realized, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
They
And
teach
it's the
us.
same with communication skills as well. You were communicating initially around little people, and there are different ways to kind of get messages across, and that really broadens your scope of how you communicate. It isn't just verbal communication. There's a lot of things you do, some just sort of mimicking and acting and sort of just drawing pictures, and you're using all of this when you're becoming a mother. And then negotiation. Oh my gosh, I tell people all the time, Dominic, that if you can negotiate with a 3-year-old, there's no one on this planet you can't take on. Just take that conviction and remember that.
He learned it in a hard way.
Yeah. So it's great, and that's really what kind of set the scene really for starting Uma. Because I realized after a few years that I'm going to start exploring the professional workforce again. But I never once felt I was actually out of the workforce. I never tried to use the word career break, because for me this was a career transition. I was still doing something. I was still doing things that to me were very, very fixed and focused on things I was interested in the past as well. But I was just developing new skill sets. So that's something I always maintained. But when I went and met some friends of mine, just for casual coffees or lunches, I was quite surprised. And this is in New York City, which is known as being a bit of a machine when it comes to the workforce. But, I was surprised at the kind of questions I was getting. Not once was I asked about the relevance of my credentials and, what I could offer back into the workforce. It was fixated around that proverbial gap on my resume, that motherhood time I had taken off. I didn't know when I met friends for casual coffees that I had to fill that almost 4-year gap. I just thought, okay, well, these are just sort of casual chats. And that was really a depiction really of how I felt society treats you when you are a full-time parent and you are out of the professional workforce, but you are in fact in the caregiving role, instead of just doing so many amazing things. People don't quite understand it. It's almost like it's that gap is translated as you being not ambitious anymore, a quitter, not a go-getter. Things that I would argue could be furthest from the truth. So really that's why I started Uma, my company, to build confidence, to empower these women and other minorities as well, about how do you kind of inspire that, not just personal success, but translate it into professional success as well. And then ultimately build up leadership and resilience in women and minorities. Whether you're looking at re-entering the workforce, whether you're looking at progressing in the workforce, or kind of getting up those leadership ranks again. So I made it my life's mission to do that. Been doing it for just over four years now.
Wow. That's an incredible story.
Thank you.
Amazing. So spell it for us. It's Uma, you said? U-M?
U-M-A.
U-N or Emma?
M. It's actually named after, in Hinduism, there is a goddess, the goddess Uma. I call her the goddess of go-getting, because she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a sibling, she's a wife. So she really depicts a lot of the many roles that women at some point have in their lives. But she's really strong, full of confidence, and just full of that inner determination. And that's why the company was named Uma.
I can tell you have the energy.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. I mean, I think that when I was younger and I started working with a mentor, he used to call me a dead drip because I didn't have any energy. And after a while, I began to look at myself like, you know what, that's right. If I'm going to be excited about my life, I need to add the energy. So I had to force myself to add the energy back then. And now it's like, it's really easy because it's natural. But you obviously have gone through that. And yeah, so if you've 2 kids, they're 4, what'd you say, 5 and 7?
5 and 7, yeah.
5 and 7. Wow. Boys, girls?
So my eldest is a boy. His name is Rahi. My daughter, she's 5, and her name is Rhea.
Ah, okay. And they run the show, basically.
Yeah, they're my new bosses. So that's just how it is.
Now, so are they in school or are they
Well,
doing the
that's the
home thing?
thing. As of yesterday, New York City announced that at least in the public school system, schools are closing. So my son is now at home full time,
Ah,
in remote schooling. My daughter's school, though, she's at a girls' school, and they're adamant to stay open regardless of what happens. So she's at school right now. So
wow.
we'll see.
Yeah, I understand this. I mean, it's crazy. I just heard the same announcement last night on the news, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, here we go." So, okay, so Uma, that's cool. So, paint us a little picture of what that looks like. I mean, are you going in? I don't know. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's obviously changed and pivoted in some ways over the last 8-9 months or so. But in a sense, what does UMA do? So through coaching and mentoring, we help sort of build up the confidence and the inner voice, first and foremost, before exploring people's journeys and what is it they're trying to achieve, whether it's transitioning careers, becoming an entrepreneur, entering a professional career in a certain industry, whatever it is. We always work on that confidence first. Because Dominic, I've got to tell you, the first thing that goes when you have self-doubt is your confidence. You know, when you start asking yourself questions, and this happens to everybody. You don't have to be
Mhm.
man, woman, or any other, gender or identify any other way, but it's something that affects everybody, and it's the first thing that we actually work on because of that. So that's predominantly what our coaching and the mentoring does. And then we kind of help people steer their journeys. We call that an ownership, in terms of, okay, let's look at what opportunities are out there, what might be suited to you. And then we work very closely with companies. We partner with them on a diverse and inclusion agenda, because by extension of working with individuals, whether what they want to get into the workforce or progress, you can't just send somebody in and the infrastructure isn't right, or the workplace culture isn't set up, or you have a boss that just does not quite gel or understand how to lead with empathy or kindness or decency.
Mhm.
So that's really a lot of the work that we do as well. It's, we have teams of, that do corporate training, that do roundtables with leadership, separate. We have separate coaching just specifically for leaders as well.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the nutshell of the brunt of what we do. And then, I used to travel a lot. I was invited to speak at a lot of international conferences on diversity and inclusion, gender equality, changing the narrative. For policymakers. So I, traveled to Paris, to UNESCO, European Parliament. I've been to Moscow. Funny because since quarantine, everything has gone from getting on an airplane to doing everything virtually. So
Mhm.
next week, for example, I'm going to be speaking at a conference in Zambia, one in Moscow and one in Delhi back to back. And that would never have happened had it been pre-quarantine, because I would have, been, they would have had to move my talk or something, So it's things like that actually during quarantine had to pivot. So we're doing a lot of these sessions and talks online, and you kind of learn to really go with it. You have to make it that much more engaging, because
Mhm.
people are zoomed out right now. We know that. So it has to be that much more engaging. It's not just how can I build confidence, it's how can I build unshakable confidence. It's the
Mhm.
difference in how you kind of approach it. And
Wow.
then, during quarantine as well, I started hosting the Uma Show, which is our own TV show, via an Indian channel, Mana TV International. So I interview sort of inspirational guests that I think have just broken that proverbial glass ceiling and have really true role models out there. And I also co-authored 2 books. Diversity
Two
and inclusion.
books on top of that. Like you have time. We just like, how do you do that? You just like wait until everybody's asleep and
Yeah,
then.
you know what? My hours are a little odd, because I have so many different teams in different locations anyway. So my hours are a little odd because of that. They're either early mornings or late nights. But I just find time. You just have to. I'm very, very structured about my days, because obviously I've got to, now homeschool the kids as well. It's a lot, but I always find that if you're really, really structured, you can fit it in, and it's up to you to be disciplined to do that.
Mhm.
And it's just about that. And also, I'm just so passionate about what I do that for me, it's almost like I'm doing this anyway. Let me just write it down.
Yeah.
So it's,
I get it. I understand. I wrote several books in the same way. I'm like, why don't I just put it on paper and and put it out there. So yeah, that's great. Wow. So tell us what it's like. Let's go back to London. So are you like a downtown London, or are you in the suburbs London, or yeah?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, London is that entire sort of area around the M25, which is the big main motorway that sort of circulates London. So technically we're in London, but we're called Greater London, where my parents still are. And I would always go and stay with them when I go visit. But I was educated. I went to King's College London, which is in central London. So we don't use downtown, uptown there. It's just central London or Greater. Yeah.
I've been there a couple of times. I was always enamored by that. I actually was on a tour one time many years ago, and we were at the seeing the crown jewels on I forgot the name of it, the bridge.
Tower Bridge.
Tower Bridge, thank you. And so, I'm like gawking around and I'm not paying attention. The group is migrating like this. And all of a sudden I look and they're gone. I'm like, what in the world is going? So I ran to try to find them, couldn't find them, ended up getting lost from the tour and walking around downtown, or whatever you call it, central London, going down the tube and then popping up, oh, Piccadilly Circus, cool.
Yeah.
So you know
what, Dominic, that's one of the best ways to do it, because sometimes when you're in there and you're kind of being led the way, you forget to actually notice the little things. But if you kind of just go and get yourself a travel card and you just get on the tube or something, or get on a bus, you can actually see so much more, or just walk.
Yeah, it was an exciting time for me.
Yeah.
And great that you were, grew up there. I mean, London is a famous, like Chicago. That's where I'm at here. But yeah, it's famous, and there's so much. And for old guys like me, rock and rollers, all the great music came from England, of course. That's great. So you went to college. What did you study?
So it's funny because I actually studied medicine to start with, purely because my parents really wanted me to be a doctor. And back in my day, when schooling was done, it was very much of a spoon-fed education, which means that you would just copy what's on the whiteboard or the blackboard, and at exam time you would just memorize, learn it, and regurgitate it. And I was good at doing that, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I was always growing up thinking and hearing that was the messaging. So got into medical school, started studying medicine, and I realized that I would always just miss anatomy because I couldn't stand the sight and the smells of what I was seeing in the room. And I'm like, this is some sort of messaging here. But the irony is that I would always score really highly on my exams because of the learning and regurgitating part. And it took me 2 years to actually leave. Yeah, so it wasn't until I did my preclinical that I actually thought, okay, this is a good time to have that break. And the hardest conversation ever was actually breaking it to my parents to say that I don't want to do this anymore. It was really hard. But I did it, and that was the first time for me. That was a growing up moment. That was, okay, I'm an adult now, when I'm actually thinking, okay, what do I want to do? And then I did question myself, what was it I wanted to do? And I studied mathematics and management at King's College in London, and which I absolutely loved. And then did financial maths after that as well, continued there. So absolutely loved it, and that sort of started and led on to my career path in finance.
I was gonna say, yeah, so Goldman Sachs is that's a big step, big huge achievement there. Thank you.
No, of course, yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. It was just and it was just one of those things that felt naturally. And I think because I didn't feel the pressure during when I did my maths and management, I felt things were just so much easier when you don't pressure yourself to think. For me, it was like, I'm doing something because I want to do it and I enjoy it, and no big deal if things don't work out. I was done with it. Okay, I'm going to get distinction, and I ended up getting one, but that was because I probably didn't think too hard about it. It was more like, I really, really learned for the love of learning, and because I was really interested in absorbing something I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about management. I wanted to study it because it was brand new and sounded interesting.
So what did you do at Goldman? I mean, what was your job?
So I had several. I started off on the equities trading floor, so I was in pan-euro sales trading to start with. And initially, my first job was getting coffee for everyone. I was an intern when I started as summer analyst, and I had to be there at 5:30 a.m. With everyone's coffees. And I just remembered carrying my team's coffees, and we were at the time at Peterborough Court, which was at the time kind of our headquarters, and there were these revolving doors, and I had to navigate the revolving doors with holding the coffees, and yeah, they got spilt now and again, and I had to get them again. But it's just how you learn, and that was part of the camaraderie and getting there. And yeah, but I absolutely loved it. And then yeah, and it's a very team working culture, and I love that about the firm. I just got along with my team, and just, we used to hang out socially after the markets closed, and it was just a really great experience. It's a very tough experience in the sense that you are working. You have to work. You can't just sort of like put your feet up or whatnot. Even from the day one of being a summer analyst, an intern, you have to work. There is nothing about you're just observing because you're learning. You are given real responsibilities from day one. You got to prove yourself. You can't just sort of put your feet up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, would never thought that you were getting coffee for people. I mean, it's probably, it's a service job. You're serving people, but at the same time you're learning, which is really, that's really cool too. That's great. And then you took that into motherhood.
Yeah, kind of fire, yeah.
Making pancakes and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so now you're there in New York. Are you more like, okay, central New York, or are you on the outside? And what do you do when you're not crazy busy working?
Yeah, I mean, we're in Manhattan, in a place called the Upper West Side. So it's literally by Central Park. We live by the park. So that is my kids' back garden. That's their yard. They go. That's
Love that.
Where they go.
Have you gone to see the John Lennon thing?
Oh yeah, that was that's that's right there. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody has to do that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we love it. It's obviously things are different right now because of limited openings, and now schools as well, and then the shutdown announcement. So, but this is home right now, and can't really move that much at the moment because of some of the travel restrictions. So this is where it is, but it's great. It's very similar to London in so many ways. Cosmopolitan, large city, lots going on. But the funny thing is, Dominic, when I first moved to New York, and I traveled so much and been to New York so many times, I thought, you know what, gonna, just get straight in. But there was something about just moving my suitcase and not traveling back, but just moving my life. I got homesick when I moved. And I didn't realize at the time that that's what it was. I was just thinking, what something is going on. And it was really, really an interesting journey, but also quite a hard journey, because just little things. I'd always been, a strong-minded, independent woman. And, I had my own Amex in the UK, and I, try to get myself an Amex in the US, thinking, okay, let me do that. First thing, that as soon as I landed here, I had to get myself a social security number so I could obviously start paying into the system and whatnot. So I thought, let me get myself an Amex. I couldn't get one. I had no credit history over here. And I was like, oh, okay. So even if it's American Express, then I learned, oh yes, there are different jurisdictions and different, things for that. So you have to almost build from scratch. And it felt in some ways I'd lost that independent identity. I moved here after I got married, so I then had to be my husband's plus one in a lot of things. And he was very, great with everything and getting me to help me to settle in and, meeting friends and whatnot. But for me personally, it was hard. And, there is no guidebook. Nobody tells you that that's part of when you relocate. That's what you're going to do. You're going to start literally your life from scratch. You just think of the more glamorous parts. Oh yeah, I get to look for a new place, or I'm going to go settle in here, or you think about work and shifting your work rather than the other bits of it as well. So yeah, and then I think it wasn't really until I had my kids, and we moved to the Upper West Side where we are now, that really I felt New York is my home. Before that, I was always like, London, and I still do. London is also my home as well, but it wasn't until they were born and I could make my own base and make my own friends myself and got to figure out things for myself that I felt this was actually home. So
great. Wow. So where do
Dominic, I can't hear you, but I don't know if it's just me or
you can't hear me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can't hear you. It's bizarre.
That is so weird. I have no idea what to do. You can't hear.
Should I hang up and join back on again? I don't know if anyone else can't hear you either, or is it just me?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Do that. Hang up and come back. How about now? Anything?
So I can't hear it. So should I just hang up?
Yeah.
Just give me a thumbs up if
Hang
you want
up
me to hang up.
and then come back.
Thumbs up? Hang
Yeah.
up. Okay. All right.
That's so weird. That doesn't happen ever. Well, here we go. So she's going to come back in just a moment, and hopefully we'll have audio. If not, that's going to be the end of the show for today. There's nothing I can do about the audio. We're still recording. That's cool. We've got one person showing that they're watching. They had lots of thumbs up. That's awesome. Thank you all for watching. And I am with Rita, and she is our next person behind the passion. Let me just bring that little thing up here. Person behind the passion, show that. Very good. Okay. And yeah, so Rita's having a little bit of a audio problem, not knowing, understanding why that's happening, but who knows when it comes to technology. Hopefully she'll be right back. And she's got this passion for building confidence, inspiring success, and leadership in women. She works in corporations. She's got her own gig that's called UMA, which is like a name for a woman goddess. So how about now? Can you hear me? Great. I'll bring you back up in the stream. That was just a little tiny hiccup. Oh, well.
So I'm hoping it was just me that couldn't hear you, and everyone, the rest of the world.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that it records from this side, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
It should be fine. Okay, so you landed it in New York. Now you call it home. You've got 2 kids. You're married. What does your husband do?
So he's in finance. Initially, that's how we met, actually, in New York on one of my trips way back in the early 2000s. And then we met again after I transitioned out of banking into the healthcare industry. And actually, that's a funny story, Dominic, because when we met again, this was the first time I thought, wow, that's what the sky looks like. And ooh, air, that's what it feels like to breathe. It's just almost one of those moments that unless you're sometimes taken out of a situation, you don't realize it. So anyway, we met again. I had a work trip. I was going to go to Florence, Italy, just for presenting something there. And I remember, like, I'd been out with some clients, in Italy. The food was amazing, the wine. So I sent, Rasheen and I were in touch quite frequently at that point. And I said, hey, it's amazing. You totally love it over here. You should come over. And then 10 hours later, he was in Florence. And that's really how that happened. And soon after, we got engaged, and we had 5 weddings around the world.
5 weddings around the world.
Yeah, because we've got family everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but in different places. So
wow, that's crazy. That's a lot of weddings. So instead of bringing everybody to one spot, you did the things and everything.
Yeah, we did a lot. I mean, we did. So we had a civil in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, which is where Rasheen's family is right now. And then we did the religious ceremony in Assam, Northeast India, which is where my family from.
Okay.
And then we did part of a religious ceremony and the reception in Ahmedabad, which is in west of India, which is where Rasheen's family originally were from. And then we did another Columbus, a New York celebration, and then London. That was the last one. And then after we did London, a week later, my green card arrived, and then I left. Yeah.
It's like cats have 9 lives. At least you got you've got lots of lives to go. That's great. Awesome. So okay, talk about your childhood, your teenage years. And this is person behind the passion. So I mean, I like to get to know people a little bit more in depth. I mean, were you outgoing? Were you in sports? Were you shy type? Were you crazy and gave your parents premature gray hair? I mean, what?
I think all of the above.
All
there was just different things. I'd always been a really outgoing girl ever since I was young. I just get involved in everything. There was an expression, I don't know if people use the phrase anymore, but I was called a tomboy a lot because I would always just sort of rough and tumble. My daughter is exactly like that now, so I think she completely follows in my footsteps on that one. But that's, I was like that. I would just get straight in. I wouldn't, think there was something I couldn't do. And then I would find out if I could do it or not, because I'd be too short or too tall, whatever it was. I'd find out by doing and think, okay, well, how do I get to do that? Is
Hmm.
this something I want to try harder to do, or do I want to move on to something else? And that's sort of been something that's been a philosophy during my life. I'd always loved to travel. That travel bug I got, I don't even know how and when, but it's something that always intrigued me. I think, my parents used to take me and my younger brother to Assam every few years as kids. So we were used to going back to Assam home again and seeing that. And then we would take, different trips to different areas and road trips and things. So that were fun. So we were used to traveling anyway as a family. That could have been what gave me the travel bug. I don't know. And then, when I came, I think when I was 18 or something, it was the first time I traveled with friends, and then traveled solo. And then I was in Guatemala for 6 months, and I've lived in India. So I've lived, been so many different places for periods of time, and enough to have, almost called it my home for a bit, because I really tried to bond with the culture. I love music. I've always been into dancing. So, even as a kid, I'd always sort of just be kind of really musical and dancing and everything. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So when it comes to comfort zone, you don't even know what that means, right? It's like you don't live anywhere inside here. You're always like way out here in the
Yeah,
beyond.
I mean, when I give the example, why I started Uma about confidence hits all of us, it hit me too. One of those examples when we talk about comfort zone was when I moved to the US, actually moved. And that's when it hit me like, okay, then that hit me about, okay, I'm not that, strong, independent woman I thought I was, because I'm now dependent. I'm now the plus one. And that for me was something I had to figure out about. So, and that took time, but that was me. But I was able to recognize that. And similarly in other ways as well, when I was first sort of trying to get back into the workforce again. And I was told, like, yeah, you know what, mums aren't ambitious, or this is not happening. I wouldn't accept that. I would be like, okay, initially it hit me. Then I thought, okay, well, I want to do something about this. And that's always been a philosophy, being that confident, getting in there kind of, if you don't try it, you don't know if you like it or not. So
Exactly, that's the way that it is.
yeah.
So okay, so you sound like you've pretty much been a city girl most of your life. Have you ever like taken a chill vacation and gone to some place, maybe I don't know, beach or um, mountains, or where do you like to go to chill?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a few vacation. Obviously, not in the last few months. We haven't been to a beach or anything. But Barbados was one of my favorite places. I'd go. I've been with friends several times. I have not been with my family, my husband or my kids actually, but certainly with friends I've been several times. I'd love to go to Cuba as well. That was just so much fun. I spent
You
quite
were
a
in
bit of time
Cuba?
in Brazil. Yeah, I
I'm,
loved it.
I'm
Beautiful.
jealous.
Beautiful. For me, it's anything that has that music and that vibe, that life was something that I just loved.
Yeah.
And actually feel the vibrancy of the culture. And also just to unwind. I mean, one of the first things I noticed when I first went to Barbados, so we're talking about, over 20 years ago now. But when I first went to Barbados, I noticed that we didn't see a single clock. And I was used to coming from a corporate world where forget clocks, you're thinking in 5 different time zones. And then for me, that was like, wow. And that really helped set the scene of unwinding and just getting everything, work, steam, everything out. And I think that something was meaningful, because then when you actually do go back to work, and it's funny because when you go back to the office, a lot of people think within 5 minutes, it feels like you haven't been away. You forget everything. But for me, with Barbados in particular, it certainly took me time to kind of get back in, which was good, because I was disciplined what I did, but I didn't get stressed about getting back into work. I didn't think, oh gosh, my mailbox is probably really full. I just like, it's full. I'll deal with it because I know I have to. But everyone knows I've been away. I'm going to just put my out of office on in certain points of day where I'm just sort of, going to go through things to catch up.
Wow. I get it. So, all right. So if I had a plane ticket in my hand for any place to go see one of the 7 wonders of the world, or probably more than 7 now, but where would you go?
You know what? Oh gosh. There's so many places I've yet to visit. One place I'm feeling really nostalgic about recently is actually back home in Assam. So it's actually to see family there and people I grew up with in some parts. Why? Because people are starting to get older and no longer be around. And I really, really want to go there because I travel anyway. I get to go to really cool places, my conferences and whatnot. They're at really cool locations. But that's one thing that I have to intentionally make the plan to go. And I really want to expose my kids to that. And from a younger age, so they don't grow up and think, okay, this is a foreign land. I want them to feel so comfortable setting foot, whether it's in Assam or any other part of the world where there are different cultures, and just being able to just walk straight in and adapt. Because that's what I did, and I'd love them to do that too.
High hopes for kids. I've got 4 of them myself. So, okay, we're getting close to the end here. I got 2 more questions for you. First of all, where do you see UMA going? I mean, what's the vision for that?
So I think with the UMA, I mean, for me, I always see it as a global journey. It's an international platform, and it's a platform for change. So it's not just about empowering voices locally in New York. We now have the capacity and the capabilities with digital technology to impact everybody. And we're already we're in London, LA, San Fran, Toronto already, and there's been quite a bit of impact of we have folks in India, in Bangladesh, in Thailand. We have one person in Afghanistan as well, and then all over Europe we've had different clients as well. So it's something I definitely see as a global mission. I would love to see it grow and help and impact people's lives everywhere. It isn't just, confidence and diversity and inclusion isn't just a local issue. It's something that affects everybody. And it's something that is relatively easy to fix when you concentrate and think about yourself.
It's a big mission.
Yeah.
And it's at the same time.
That's what excites me.
Yeah, and you're bringing it to life, which I think is the coolest thing. So, all right, so we'll pretend that every person on planet Earth right now is watching this interview, right? Everybody in every country, they're all like, okay, tell us something, give us a piece of, I don't know, advice, or if you really could talk to everybody at one time and have their undivided attention, what would you say to humanity right now, given all the stuff that's going on? And yeah, what would you say?
2 messages. I'm gonna put another one in the 2. I think the first one is just learn to appreciate others. Take a step back and listen first. People don't do enough listening. It's becoming a very entitled culture. The more people have voices, there's a way of exercising your voice and your views and still being passionate and empowered without being entitled about it. And I think taking a step back to listen first, to understand what somebody's trying to say, can go a huge way. Yeah.
Great. That's great. It's true. I mean, the whole entitlement thing. And I always say that we're here to learn to get along. That's like,
totally.
On the planet. Because with all the stuff going on with all the different countries, and I want to get into that, but you know what I'm saying? It's all happening, and we're like slowly getting closer and integrating. Sometimes we fall back apart, but we're integrating to learn. I mean, we're learning to get along as an organism, because that's what we are. So wow, that was great. I felt like I was on a fast train somewhere.
Yeah, no, totally, yeah.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, and the second thing I wanted to just quickly show you my books as well. One just came out. So this one came out a month ago. No, about 2 months ago. That's one.
This is your book.
Yeah, that's one of them. This one came out yesterday.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so this came out right yesterday. It's hot off the press on Amazon.
Matters. Awesome.
So it's on women in business. Both of them on women in business. Slightly different angles. And diversity and inclusion, about how to be a decent person, how to actually make leadership successful, is all described in that. So definitely, I would say, go grab a copy if anyone's watching and is interested.
Well, you're so kind. When we're done, you can type in the link for
cool,
just type it right in there. No problem. That would be an awesome thing. So, all right. Wow. Well, okay. I got to say, Rachna, thank you. That was, for bringing us this amazing woman right here. So, Rita, you're a trip. You're great.
Dominic, thanks for providing this platform. This is amazing. I love what you're doing as well. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have you back. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah. Enjoy your travels, virtual travels for now, right?
Looking at pictures, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. Thank you all for watching. And from all of us here in the Self Achievement Network, remember to have fun and stay inspired. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.